All right. I think we will go ahead and get started. I want to start by introducing myself. My name is Danielle Goldman. I'm co-founder and executive director at Open Avenues Foundation and CEO at the Build Fellowship, which is our new initiative from Open Avenues Foundation to increase the number of CAP-exempt H-1B fellowships around the United States. We're so excited to talk to you about this solution that we've been building for 6 years, how it's worked, what the opportunity is for all of you who may not have won the lottery this year, but are certainly looking for solutions to stay and build careers in the United States. So I want to just start by saying, Jeff, who is my co-founder, he's also my father. I grew up around immigration as a topic at my dinner table. Jeff has been an immigration attorney for nearly more than 3 decades. He's a very innovative an entrepreneurial attorney. And he came to me in 2017 and said, I've been filing cap exempt H-1Bs. I have ideas on ways to work within the law to ensure that we can create opportunities for foreign talent to stay and build careers here. And we started Open Avenues Foundation together. It has grown and evolved, and it's been an amazing experience to not only build together, but also to see what happens when you innovate within the immigration world. We've been able to help a lot of individuals stay and build their careers here through this process, and we'll talk through it today. So I want to just start off by talking about today's immigration landscape. As many of you on this call know, the H-1B lottery is unbelievably restrictive, hasn't changed in decades. And the reality is that hundreds of thousands of individuals are entering into an annualized lottery system that doesn't take into consideration where you're from, the industry demands. It's really focused on just the cap that Congress set at 85,000. And I probably don't need to explain this to you on the call because I'm sure many of you are in this room today because you know about the H-1B. You entered into the lottery. This year, we saw around a 30% selection rate from what we've been hearing from our attorney partners. And it's great for those who are selected. It's a pretty, straightforward process. This is the most common work visa in the United States. So if you have a degree in a field in which you are working that's related to the work you do, it's a really straightforward case. I mean, the company has to be set up to successfully sponsor an H-1B, but as long as they are, this typically is a pretty seamless process. But if you are not selected, then what are your options? And Jeff usually talks through this slide with everyone, but I've done presentations with him for 6 years, so I'm happy to go ahead and do it. But the real questions when you're asking yourself, what are your next steps? We don't pretend like, oh, Jeff, perfect timing. I was just about to present the option.
Thanks. Thanks, Danielle.
If people lose the lottery. I was pretty excited to start talking about O1 visas, which everyone gets very excited about, but I'll let you, your camera's covered by your finger, but if you just move your finger, that's going to work well.
How does this work?
If you want to start by I'm happy to just guide you through the slides a little bit. If you want to start by talking about O1s, you might not need to use your glasses if I can just tell you a little bit about it if you want.
I can see. Okay. So as long as you can hear me, the O1 is for people who are among the most extraordinary in the field, the people who have risen to the very top. The U.S. Immigration Service has 8 criteria in the regulations, and if you meet 3 out of the 8, then you are extraordinary. The criteria are all over the internet. They're on my website, but basically the criteria are whether you have ever won an award or prize for excellence in the field. Have you ever been interviewed by major media who has done a story either online or in print about you? Have you ever played a leading or critical role for a distinguished organization? Many founders certainly play a leading and critical role for their organization. The question is whether you're too young to be distinguished. which means relatively known by the field. So the O1 is a possibility, and whether you win the H-1B lottery or not, you should be constantly trying to achieve some of these requirements so that if you ever do need an O1, you'll be qualified. A TN is only for citizens of Canada or Mexico who are working in a STEM profession. There's a couple of business-related professions, but they're particularly difficult to qualify for. Certainly, if you're from Canada or Mexico, you need to check out the list of TN occupations. An L1 visa is for an executive or manager of a multinational company, or a person who has specialized knowledge about the multinational company's technology. And the basic rule for an L1 is that you must have worked for at least 1 full year outside the United States for the multinational company. And if that's true, or if you can make it true, then L1 is definitely a valuable way to be able to work legally in the US. Some people who have no other options decide to continue or go back to F1 status, and they seek out a university that will authorize them to work off campus for a for-profit employer using what's called CPT, Curricular Practical Training. There's only a handful of universities that offer F1 CPT on day one, meaning immediately upon starting the program. Some of these are fraudulent. You need to be careful because the US Immigration Service is constantly hunting down fraudulent programs that are offering F1 CPT. So you need to make sure the university is legitimate, that they really do graduate people from their programs, and best if you know someone who's successfully gone through that university. But one of the most interesting ways to qualify to qualify to work inside the United States, if you don't win the lottery, is a cap-exempt H-1B. Congress has declared that there are 4 organizations that qualify to always file H-1B petitions without winning the lottery. These are universities, government research organizations, nonprofit research organizations, and nonprofits that are affiliated with a university. These 4 organizations can offer you a full-time job and file that cap-exempt H-1B petition without winning the lottery any time of the year. So that's nice for those 4 organizations, and really nice for you if what you're looking to do is to work full-time for one of those 4 organizations, and only for those 4 organizations. But there's a legal way to be able to partner with one of these 4 organizations to get a cap-exempt H-1B, and at the same time get a second H-1B for any company in the US. Maybe it's your own startup, or maybe it's the very company you've been working in OPT for, and you want to be able to continue to work with them. Here's how it works. There's a concept called concurrent H-1B employment. This means having an H-1B with one organization, and if you do, it automatically permits a second organization to file a concurrent H-1B petition for you, so that you're working for both at the same time. And because of that concurrent H-1B rule, it's possible to get one of the 4 cap-exempt organizations to sponsor you for part-time work. Maybe a university will sponsor you to be a teaching assistant for 5 to 10 hours a week, and they can immediately file a cap-exempt H-1B for you, and they can get that approved quickly, and suddenly your own startup or the company that you're working for and you want to work for can immediately file a concurrent H-1B, so that you're working both part-time for the university and full-time for the company you want to. So Danielle's going to explain how how it is that the Build Fellowship has taken this concept and helps you find the cap exempt organization who's willing to employ you for part-time work specifically so that you can legally have a full-time employer file a concurrent H-1B petition, and you can be working for both at the same time.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. So as was explained, with the part-time cap exempt H-1B employment at a nonprofit, you can see the nonprofit in our model over to the right. The nonprofits in the Build Fellowship Network are offering part-time employment opportunities for foreign nationals to work and train the future workforce, to train students for 5 hours per week. And working for a nonprofit, training students for 5 hours per week at our university partners means that you can also have a company sponsor a concurrent cap exempt H-1B once you're in cap exempt H-1B status in this fellowship program. So this is how the model works. Our Build Fellows are spending these 5 hours at the nonprofits, working with our affiliated colleges and universities, and then working full-time for employers. Now, the way that this model has evolved is that Open Avenues Foundation back in 2018 started to, with just a few fellows in the program, bring foreign nationals part-time to work for Open Avenues Foundation and spend the remainder of their time working at the employer. So over the course of the last 5.5 years, Open Avenues Foundation has had more than 175 foreign national fellows sponsored in the program, with a 99% approval rate of the petitions that we file. Moving forward, we've opened up more fellowship positions out of additional nonprofits that are in our network. So we are launching a program next week in Washington, D.C. with George Washington University that is open for founders specifically, and these startups that have some funding. So if you have a startup and you're building it, then this is a great option for you. We also have a partner in Boston, Dream Venture Labs, that is open to founders and also to mid to senior level employees, just like Open Avenues Foundation. They are opening up fellowships as well. So we're expanding the number of fellowships out of Open Avenues Foundation and creating these part-time employment opportunities for you to work with students. We are looking for individuals who are first qualified for an H-1B. If you're qualified for an H-1B, you're qualified for a cap exempt H-1B. It's just with one of these 4 types of organizations. So you must have at least a bachelor's degree or the equivalent of a bachelor's degree in a field that you will be working in full-time in the United States. So a great case is if you have a degree in software development and you are working as a software developer, or you have a degree in mechanical engineering and you are working in the mechanical engineering field. A not so great H-1B case is if you have a degree in English and you want to be a computer scientist. You'd have to really tie together how the courses you took in your English degree make sense for why it prepared you to be a computer scientist. So nothing is ever off the table. We really dig into transcripts to try to see, did you take the coursework that prepared you for this job? That is how you qualify for an H-1B. We look for 2 years of work experience. This can be in your OPT that you've worked in your field of expertise. The reason we put this on here, the reason we look for this is because you as a fellow in the Build Fellowship program will be a leader of students of projects within your field of expertise. So those software developers, those mechanical engineers, we have marketing professionals, we have graphic designers, we have finance professionals, all of the individuals in our program launch projects within their expertise, within their field. But they are mentoring and working with students. So we look for individuals who have that experience. We are also looking for a benefactor for the fellowship. That means that a company is willing to pay for this program. You cannot pay for it yourself. It could be another entity. It could be, any external source of funding that you have, but you cannot pay for your own fellowship because in the United States, you cannot pay for your own H-1B or the filing fees or anything related. And therefore, we want to ensure that this is reflected as we go through this fellowship program and process of you participating and getting a visa through this program. The timeline of the program, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get an evaluation done. So you start with a company nomination or an individual nomination. You can go right on the Build Fellowship website, buildfellowship.com, and you will be able to see the place where you either press nominate myself or you have a company press nominate a fellow, and you will be able to start this evaluation process right away. Through that process, we do collect transcripts and resumes, and we want to see that you're qualified for that, for the H-1B and for the program. If you are qualified, we will sign a contract with your employer or with your benefactor. And if that works, and we sign that contract, we then move through petition development. It takes 6 to 8 weeks to get a petition developed and filed and approved. We had a 9% RFE rate last year. That's very, very low compared to an average across the board. It's not a concern for us. We've actually have a 99% success rate overall. So we feel very strongly that if we accept you into this program, it's because we know you'll get an approval. Once you are approved for a CAP exempt H-1B through one of our nonprofit partners, whether it's Open Avenues Foundation or the GW program or the Dream Venture Labs program, you start your fellowship working 5 hours per week with the students. And once you start and we receive the physical approval notice, your full-time employer is immediately allowed to file a concurrent H-1B for full-time work, and you are able to start work for that concurrent employer. When we file a petition, we file a 3-year CAP exempt H-1B. That means that you can stay in the fellowship program for those 3 years. It's also possible to file an extension past those 3 years, but you can leave the program after a minimum of 6 months. So totally possible that you win the lottery next year, or you do those extra check marks to get your O1 petition ready to file. Or perhaps you get your green card EAD because you have a green card processing through your employer. You can leave the program after 6 months and transition to another status. What will you be doing for 5 hours per week is a question we often get, because this is a commitment. This is not sign on a dotted line for a visa. We want individuals to be contributing to the United States, to be training our future workforce. The fellows in our program are investing their time into being leaders within their field and spending 5 hours launching these projects, such as the ones you see on the screen here. So these are all led by these project leaders, by fellows in our program. You'll see ones that are related to finance, like Spark Capital's program, where you're actually going through an analysis of a potential investment in a startup, all the way through, doing a CAR T therapy project with CRISPR Therapeutics. And the companies on here are the ones who nominated a fellow for this program. And the companies want to keep the foreign nationals and have contracted with the Build Fellowship to ensure that they are able, that you all, the foreign nationals on this call, are able to stay and build your careers here and at their companies. So what does this cost and how do you participate? For the fellowship, we charge $15,000 to $18,000 upfront, depending on the organization that you're placed at. But right now, everyone is at the $18,000 price range. So that is what we're charging this year. This covers the legal fees for the CAP exempt H-1B, premium processing, government filing fees, and we charge a $1,300 per month fee for the program itself. That's because we have a lot of operational work happening to make sure that your education programs are running at the schools successfully and that students are engaged and participating, because that is how this organization stays compliant and continues to not only create the opportunities for you all to stay here, but also to train the future workforce and make sure that we are demonstrating to this country that when you all stay here, that when you all get these cap exempt H-1Bs and are able to build your careers, that we are improving this country at large. And that is what we show through this program. The salary share is a component of the structure with the benefactor. So the company that you are going to be working for full-time has offered you a total base compensation, and we are going to take a portion of that base compensation right out and pay you that portion through the nonprofit. So you must get paid that a fair wage from both the nonprofit and the full-time employer. This isn't an additional fee for the employer or the benefactor, but we do want to make sure that we are getting the funds through this structure to be able to pay you the portion that you need to be paid by us. So for example, if the company offers a software developer $100,000 in base compensation, and we have to pay $8,000 for your fellowship because a software developer in Houston, Texas gets paid an hourly wage that equates to $8,000 a year, then the company will pay us the $8,000 and you will get paid that $8,000 and they will pay you $92,000 directly. So you receive the total compensation, they pay the compensation in whole, but you will receive two paychecks, one from the Build Fellowship that covers your time with us and one from your full-time employer. And that's something we work through with the employer in the contracting process. I want to note that the fellowship itself is an experience that goes beyond just signing up for a solution for your immigration status. This is something where you are spending the time to train students and really impart your knowledge and efforts into this, helping these high potential individuals reach their potential. And so it's a really exciting opportunity. Marja, who was one of our fellows, she just shared that this is something that she gained a lot from personally. And that's our goal, is for this to be a good experience for everyone involved. So I want to stop there. We have plenty of time for questions. I see that there are already quite a few in here. So Jeff and I are going to go through and make sure that you all have what you need to be able to talk about this to anyone that you want as if you have an employer and you want to go approach them. The best way to do that, we have materials, of course, but you should have all of the information.
Danielle, if I can, one of the questions is particularly important, and I want to jump to it because it's the basis of what we're talking about. Maybe there was some misunderstanding. The question asks, if I work for the 5 hours a week for Build Fellowship through a cap-exempt H-1B, does my full-time employer need to still win the lottery? It's a great question. The answer is no. And the reason is because you are employed in H-1B status by the nonprofit through Build Fellowship, any employer can immediately, without winning the lottery, file a concurrent H-1B petition. So not only do you not need to win the lottery to get the 5 hour a week H-1B with Build Fellowship's nonprofit, but you also don't need to win the lottery for your own employer to file the concurrent H-1B.
Great. The first question is a scenario about OPT expiring in October 2024, working for a recruiting firm for more than 5 years, and a recent layoff. So getting a job in recruiting. Jeff, have you seen recruiting H-1Bs? I assume this is an HR role.
I think we have had some success proving that a human resource role is a specialty occupation that requires a degree in human resources. But if you have a degree in any other field other than human resources, it's going to be very difficult to prove that as a specialty occupation. So the person asking the question is asking, should maybe she look for a different role? And I think the answer is yes. I really think you're going to have, unless you have a degree in human resources, and there are some schools that offer bachelor's degrees in human resources, but short of that, I think you need to look for a different role that matches your degree.
Yep. The next question is, do we offer help with finding sponsorship companies? The answer is no, we do not. You can look at our website and there is a link to to view the companies that have nominated candidates for our program. And I think we can share that. We can share that right in here with what that link is. So I'll be sharing that in a minute, but we don't have, the best bet is to go to an employer that is either H-1B friendly, you could say, or has done our program before. They're familiar with us. There are more than 125 of those companies, so it's worth looking at those if you're applying for jobs. Great question, Ishan. My employer and its law firm is too large to concurrently file the H-1B with an organization because of the set internal rules. Can we help with finding an employer? So, I mean, it's the same answer. We don't do that, but I truly understand, and I want everyone on this call to also understand that there is an element of, if you are, we talk to a lot of companies that approach us, of course, trying to find solutions, but oftentimes you are your best salesperson and you have to advocate for yourselves, and you're here because you know that information is critical. Knowing the information and knowing the steps and knowing the risks and all of these components is critical for you to approach an employer and ask for them to do this solution for you. And, you absolutely, we have materials that we will definitely follow up on this call. You can also, if you for some reason don't get them, you can certainly request them from us. But we are focused on giving you what you need to go approach employers and have these conversations.
Danielle, the next question, why don't your non-H-1B CAP partners just employ the talent full time? I think by the non-H-1B CAP partners, you are talking about the non-profit organizations that are affiliated with university. And right now, Build Fellowship is working with 3 different non-profit organizations affiliated with the university. Why don't they just employ the talent full-time? I guess it's because they don't need the talent full-time, and what they need is the talent part-time to just lead some experiential learning opportunities for university students who are very excited to learn about the specialties that all of our Build Fellows have. But there are no full-time jobs available through our program.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's no age gap. I mean, there's no age group. There's definitely an age gap. There's no age group that we are certainly, focused on specifically. There are folks in our program who are just a few years out of school who have a great resume and experience and a lot to offer to students. And there are also, people who are in their 50s and have found themselves in a situation where they need a temporary work visa in the United States and have years and years and years of experience, and nothing else has really worked for them in terms of visa solution. So we've seen both have a lot to offer in terms of, within that range. All folks have much to offer to our students.
The next question is repeating, but I do think it's worth bringing it out again because this is the essence of the Build Fellowship and why it exists. So does this mean that the employer that is for-profit can apply for H-1B this year for an employee, even though the employee hasn't been picked in this year's lottery? And is the reason they can do this because of the fellowship? Yes, yes, yes. Because you have a fellowship and you get a CAP-exempt H-1B through the Build Fellowship's nonprofit organizations, one of them, that's what qualifies you for H-1B without winning the lottery. And the concurrent employment rule says a for-profit company can immediately, without winning the lottery, file an H-1B for you for full-time through concurrent employment. This same for-profit company cannot simply file an H-1B petition for you if you are not employed by a cap-exempt organization because you didn't win the lottery. And that's the beauty of this whole program. It's helping people who otherwise could not get H-1B status.
Question about, is this only open to F1 students or open to folks in J1 graduate who are in J1 programs? It's a great question. The answer is that if you are in a status that is expiring, whether it's CPT or OPT or a J1, or maybe you're transitioning employers and you are no longer eligible for your L1, this is a solution where you can change status to cap exempt H-1B. Maybe you're an H-4 and you want work authorization. We've seen all of these scenarios, and those are reasons why you might consider a cap exempt H-1B. You might not be qualified yet for an O1. You also could be outside the United States, and this is a way to enter the US on cap exempt H-1B.
Rudy is asking, for how many months will the $1,300 monthly charge be? The answer is the employer or the benefactor paying the $1,300 monthly fee keeps paying until you no longer need the cap exempt H-1B. Maybe that will be next year if you win the H-1B lottery. Maybe it'll be, at some point next year or the year after, if you can finally qualify for O1 and you don't need the cap exempt H-1B. Or maybe your employer is starting the green card process or already has started the green card process. And if you're not from India or China, you might be far enough into the process where you get an EAD, an employment authorization document. All of those are reasons why you no longer need cap exempt H-1B, so the employer could stop paying the $1,300 monthly charge.
How long does it, sorry, wait, I skipped one. Hi, my visa is expiring in 2024, June 8th. Is it realistic for me to go through the process and to file on time? Yes, for June expiration dates, we can absolutely start now with the evaluation, and it's totally possible. You have a 60-day grace period after your OPT ends. I assume you're an OPT. If you're in J1, it's a 30-day grace period, but you do have a grace period. As long as you have a petition filed while you're in your grace period, you can continue to stay in the United States. You have to stop working when your OPT or J1 expires expires, but you certainly can. We can be working on your case, and we often file for people while you're in your grace period.
The next question is almost identical, but this person's OPT will expire in August, and also asking, is there enough time? And the answer is yes, just for all the reasons Danielle just said. But you've also noted that you have 2.5 years of experience and previously worked as a teaching assistant as well in the marketing background. All of those help, especially your work as a teaching assistant helps give Build Fellowship the confidence that you'll be a fabulous teacher, leader for the learning opportunities that we are offering students. So that is all helpful, but not required. Should the
yeah, go ahead.
The lottery, yes, always. In fact, it's a requirement. If you are entering the Build Fellowship program, you must enter every.
Hold on. I think the question is, do they have to? The concurrent visa on top of the H-1B, the cap exempt H-1B, is filed immediately, and you don't have to go into the lottery to work for your concurrent employer. So hopefully
right.
that's clear so far. Is that?
But moving ahead.
Moving ahead.
Yeah, you do want the concurrent employer to enter the lottery because it's in everyone's interest that you win the lottery so that you can graduate from the Build Fellowship and move on with a regular H-1B that has been counted against the cap. We would love to keep you as long as you need to be here, but we have a lot of people who want in, and so we're happy to have you come, and then happy when you win the lottery and you can move on and you open up a spot for someone else.
Yeah. For example, there's been a lot of questions about this, so I'm gonna use Teja as an example. With his visa expiring on June 8th, I want to take everyone through just one of these processes. His OPT expiring June 8th, we would file a change of status from OPT to cap exempt H-1B starting June 7th. And on that date, Teja would be transitioned into cap exempt H-1B with Open Avenues Foundation or Dream Venture Labs through this Build Fellowship position. And on June 9th or 10th, whenever we receive the approval notice for our visa, then Teja is able to have his company that he wants to work for full-time immediately file, not in the lottery system, file the cap exempt, the H-1B cap exempt. So you can work for both employers immediately. But obviously we charge a monthly fee, and it's a commitment you're making to students. So Teja doesn't want to be in the program necessarily for a full 3 years. So next March, Teja's company is going to enter him into the H-1B lottery to see if he can exit the program the following year and transition to a cap subject H-1B. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense. How long does it take to, oh no, we just did that one. How do we find a benefactor? Jeff, do you want to talk a little bit about benefactors?
Yeah, benefactors are the sponsor for the fellowship. Most of the time, the benefactor is your company that you've been working for during OPT, and they love you, they want to keep you, and they're looking for a solution, and they are happy to be the benefactor to nominate you for a fellowship with Build Fellowship. And they agree to pay the $15,000 or $18,000 initial payment, and they agree to pay the $1,300 monthly payments, and they are the benefactor. If you don't have a company, you can find your own benefactor. And how do you find one? Well, one way is to start your own company, because H-1B can be sponsored by your own company. So, but your company has to have funding, and you, best if you're not the one funding it, because we don't want the Immigration Service to think you're paying for your own H-1B. But it is possible to start your own company, maybe get an investment. Somebody invests into your own company, and now your company can be the benefactor, and they can sign the contract with Build Fellowship to pay the fees that are required. And once your cap exempt H-1B is approved with Open Avenues or Dream Venture Lab, then you're working for 5 hours a week for the cap exempt organization, and then your startup company that you just created can immediately file for a full-time concurrent H-1B without winning the lottery. And now you're able to do more with your own startup than you're doing just for the 5 hours a week with the cap exempt organization. Other than that, we cannot help you find a benefactor.
There's a question about common reasons why companies don't want to go through this process, which is a really interesting question. Usually it comes down to the fact that the companies are large and they have processes in place that when they do something for one person, they have to offer it to every employee as a standardized policy. And this is a unique solution. It's a solution where a company is saying they're going to invest in this specific human rather than try to replace them, right? And so we see a lot of small to mid-sized companies that say, of course, we will do what it takes to invest in this person and ensure they can stay. So the most common is that we're too large, we have policies that are too strict, and we can't move forward. Other reasons why, Jeff, do you have any good ones?
Yeah. They don't know you well enough yet. Maybe you just started working for them in OPT 3 months ago, and now you're running out of OPT and you're asking them to make this investment in you, but they really don't know you well enough. They don't know the benefit of your work. Maybe you've never worked for them at all, and they're very interested in hiring you, but wow, they've never met you. They don't know your work, and it's a lot to ask them to pay for all of this. So those are the common reasons. But frankly, we keep meeting companies over and over and over again who know the employee. They love the work of the employee, and they're the ones who find the value is worth it. The next one is, I work for a government research organization. I think we are CAP exempt. I want to be sure though, if you can help with that, can I connect you with my employer? Well, this is not really something that the Build Fellowship can help you with. If your company is CAP exempt, they can directly file a CAP exempt H-1B, and you don't need the Build Fellowship. I will say, I am an immigration attorney with my own practice. One of my clients is Build Fellowship, but I am more than happy to have a quick call with you and figure out if your government research organization is one of the CAP exempts. And if they are and you need help, yeah, I'm more than happy to help you with that.
Awesome. How many applications do you get annually, and what's the acceptance rate? So last year we received, hundreds of applications to our program, but we do an evaluation and we make sure that you're qualified for an H-1B. If you are qualified for an H-1B, then our acceptance rate is very high. It is, if you're accepted for an H-1B and you have a benefactor, the acceptance rate is not guaranteed because we have to go through the process of meeting you. We want to make sure you're, English proficiency is the other thing that's needed as you work with students. I should have had that on the slide. We do go through those processes and make sure that those things are in place and that you want to do this for the right reasons. But as long as those are in place, you are accepted to the program. We had 150 folks come through the program at the end of last year.
Someone's asking if there's a second lottery this year, and if you are selected, can we go ahead with filing through the lottery process? The answer is absolutely yes. For those who don't know, very often there is a second lottery in August or September because it becomes clear to the Immigration Service that by the June 30th deadline, they did not receive 85,000 H-1B petitions, even though they selected 85,000 winners. And so they find they have extra slots, so they conduct the second lottery. There's no additional submissions of registrations. They will use all the registrations from the March registration period, and they'll select some more winners and announce them. If you are selected, yes, absolutely, you should go ahead with the lottery process. And if you are approved for an H-1B through the lottery, you will want to end the work you're doing with Open Avenues. Danielle, can you remind people about the 6-month commitment to Open Avenues?
Yeah,
or to any of the Build Fellowship nonprofits?
Yeah, it's really important that when someone signs up for this fellowship program, that there is a commitment made to 6 months of working with students. Because when we say we have, this cohort of fellows to bring to our university partners and engage with students there, we want to show that there's integrity of the programming. This is a very robust educational program that we run and ensure that that is part of our compliance, that you're working towards leading students through these projects and programs. So there is a 6-month minimum. After that, you can, of course, exit the program onto a CAP subject, H-1B, or any other visa.
Next,
Jeff, talk about MBA. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I am that one. I have a degree in MBA. Is it okay if I find something in a product role? Yes, we have always had success in helping MBA students prove that they're being offered a specialty occupation if they're working in a product role. I think the big problem is the US Department of Labor does not have any salary occupational classifications in the product roles. Every time we enter the word product into their search mechanism, it comes up with marketing manager or financial manager. Both of those are good specialty occupations that require an MBA. So we'd probably call you a marketing manager and have a truthful job description, but heavy on the marketing manager duties, and get the wage as a marketing manager. And we feel comfortable that is a good specialty occupation.
Jeff, do you want to talk about risks?
Yeah.
If I see risks going this track for future visas or lottery results, does it affect it at all?
Yeah, there's very low risk. First of all, if you're approved and you become a fellow, a BUILD fellow, there's zero risk. The US Immigration Service keeps approving all of our applications, and everybody who's been in our fellowship is having success in the fellowship, and they're remaining in valid status in H-1B, and they're successfully moving on in their life to either green card or they're winning the lottery. And none of them have had a problem because they were in a cap-exempt H-1B position with the BUILD fellowship. Even those who have been, who never move on, they're just stuck. They don't win the lottery and their employer's not filing the green card, and they've been with us for 3 years. I think they're not having any problem because they're a BUILD fellow either. They just haven't had good luck in moving forward and getting out of the fellowship, but they're not having any problem. As Danielle said, we're winning 99%. I guess the one time we were denied, it sort of sucked for everybody, but we were denied not really on anything to do with the BUILD fellowship. We were denied on a specialty occupation reason. The Immigration Service said it's not a specialty occupation. Well, that sucks. I will say that that person moved on in their life. They weren't penalized in the rest of their immigration life just because they were the one person denied. They were able to figure it out and get a better offer of a specialty occupation by probably a different employer. So I think the risks are very, very low.
Question on, should I enter the US with a cap exempt H-1B and a second job offer letter for better consular success? What we're actually working with now is that when you're outside the US, we file the cap exempt H-1B part-time, and the concurrent company can also, while you're outside the US, file a concurrent cap exempt H-1B, and you enter in with both approvals. So that is our new policy, and that is set up for optimal consular success. Are there any fellowships for customer success professionals? We'd have to really dig into what you do within that role.
And what your degree is, and what is the relationship between your job duties and the degree, to see if we have any reasonable arguments that it is a specialty occupation. If we don't think it is, we're not taking the case, because we're not doing ourselves any favor and we're not doing you any favor by filing a really bad specialty occupation case. We skipped one question, Danielle. It's, would a food scientist role be something that your fellowship supports? Yes, if you have the right degree to be a food scientist, and I don't know what that degree would be, but if clearly that job requires a specialized degree and you have the degree, this is a very good one. We think our partner universities will have students very interested in a learning opportunity from you. And so that would be a fantastic fellowship. Are there resources to look up your partners? Yes, on our website, we're listing tons of companies that have partnered already with the Build Fellowship. Whether there's one there that offers a job in food sciences, I don't know. Even if there is, keep in mind,
We've
just
done a
because
food
they've
scientist
offered,
before.
I'm sorry, what, Danielle?
We've done a food scientist before. We have a food
Oh, great.
science fellow.
Oh, great. Well, but keep in mind, just because one of our partner companies has previously sponsored somebody for a CAP exempt H-1B with Build Fellowship, it doesn't mean they're going to do it with you because they don't know you yet. Don't forget, that's one of the main reasons companies say no. Yeah, we did it for that person, but that person had 3 years of OPT with us. We know her work. We had to have her. Sorry, we don't know you. That might be the response you get. It doesn't mean you shouldn't reach out to them, but you have to manage your expectations.
Great. Do you want to take the next one about EAD and
Yeah, yeah. If my full-time employer does not have to enter me in the lottery again after approval of a concurrent CAP exempt H-1B, if they start filing my green card EAD and I get my perm done, can we then discontinue the CAP exempt H-1B? All right, let's back up for a minute. I think there's a misunderstanding in the first part of the question. The question suggests that if you get a CAP exempt H-1B through the Build Fellowship and your employer gets a concurrent CAP exempt H-1B, they don't need to enter the lottery again. That's not true. They want to enter the lottery again. They want to keep entering because they want you to win the lottery so they can stop paying the monthly fee to Open Avenues. And so you can stop working the 5 hours a week, even though you love it and everything's great. It's in everybody's interest for you to win the lottery. So number one, they have to keep entering the lottery. If they do start the green card and they're at the point in the green card process where you qualify for an EAD. Now, when would that be? It would be after your perm application has been certified by the Department of Labor. And then after the US Immigration Service approves your Form I-140, and after you have filed the final green card application, the Form I-485, when you file the 485, that's when you're first allowed to file an application for an employment authorization document. So if you're all the way there, and yes, you haven't got the green card yet, but you got an EAD, an employment authorization document, yes, finally that moment, you can discontinue the CAP exempt H-1B.
Quite a few questions. We have time to rapid fire go through a few more, selecting the ones that make the most sense for folks, for everyone on the call. Is there a possibility of being laid off on the part-time visa, thus revoking the CAP exempt H-1B? If you do not engage in our fellowship program, meaning we can't reach you for 4 weeks, we don't know where you've gone, what you're doing, you're not working, you're not responding. Yeah, we will give you warnings, and it's never happened before, but you're correct that you have to engage. This is not just signing up for something and not engaging in this part-time position. Because if that's the case, then your visa with us wouldn't be valid, and therefore the concurrent visa wouldn't be valid. So vacations are allowed. We want foreign nationals to have autonomy over their time in our program, but we have to see engagement. And that is a part of our compliance, and it's very important for our structure.
Question, I have a degree in digital marketing. Is that a good specialty occupation that would make me a good candidate for Build Fellowship? Yes. Question, I have a degree in project management. Is that a good degree so that I could get success with CAP exempt H-1B? Yes. I'm hired by a new employer right now. How soon can they file for H-1B CAP exempt? Immediately. They can reach out immediately, and they should reach out immediately if your current work authorization, probably OPT, is about to expire. Not exactly sure why a company hired you right now with your work authorization about to expire, but if they did and they want to keep you, they can reach out immediately to start the H-1B cap exempt process with Build Fellowship.
Great. Can someone change their status, Jeff, from F2 to cap exempt H-1B?
Yes, F2 is the spouse of an F1. Absolutely, you're eligible to change status to cap exempt H-1B.
Nitin asked about hackathons being a judge. Does that help with the cap exempt H-1B application? You just have to have it's really, USCIS is not looking at what kinds of certificates you have, hackathons you've participated in. They don't care about your resume other than the job you're applying for and the transcripts that you have and the courses you've taken. So that's what we're looking for in our evaluation as well.
Taya works for an airline and he wants to know, would he be assigned to do projects? If he goes through the Build Fellowship, will he be assigned to do products regarding his current work? And the issue is a lot of what he does is confidential. No, we are not going to put you to work that requires using confidential information, but we will have you work with the Build Fellowship to scope a project that is similar to some current project where you don't need to disclose confidential information, but it does take advantage of your current work and your current expertise, and most importantly, your specialty occupation. That's critical that you be working in a specialty occupation.
Mm-hmm. Someone asked if the company isn't excited about these fees, which no one's going to be excited about fees for a program, but how do you approach that conversation? And I often, when I talk to a company, I talk about the fact that this is not just about keeping you in the fellowship in your seat. And of course, there's so many costs that companies incur when they have to replace someone. Recruiters can cost $20,000. And that's not even accounting for like the time that a company has invested in your growth. So there's a reality where this is less expensive per our calculations than actually having to replace someone fully with a recruiter and pay for the time lost on productivity and onboarding, et cetera. That being said, there's a whole nother component as you're talking about this, which is, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but the reality is many of the companies that are filing the concurrent visas get access to our students as future pipeline, because you as fellows are training students within your field with skills that you have on projects that are related to the type of work you do for the company. And many, many, many companies have actually hired students that go through our training and our programming. That's a huge benefit to companies. They're getting access to a new talent pool, and that's part of what this program is. Companies often are putting money into different recruiting tools and different, softwares to recruit and train. And this is a great way to also do that for companies. We are over time, so I'm going to stop there. Please, please, please reach out. You can nominate yourself on the website and you will get access to information. You can email info@buildfellowship.com with questions if you want materials. We will certainly follow up with links, recordings, and next steps. I see that our team just dropped in a link to our website where you can nominate yourself and you will be given the information automatically to move forward in this process. So we are really grateful you took the time tonight, and we hope to be in touch with you soon. We hope to see some of your applications come through, and we hope you join the program. So thank you, everyone. Take care.